So if you're thinking, Will, did you just come out to hate me now? Yes, because you're probably not going to like me by the time this presentation's over. I'm going to show you realities and things that are right in front of your face, like I typically try to do, that you're not doing, that's making Google a lot of money. Anybody in here want Google to make more money? Well, then you need to pay attention to every freaking one of these slides. So what I showed last year helped me to find $97,000 in waste in a PPC account in 52 minutes. That paid for my SEO project. Isn't it nice when you find a way to pay for your own shit? Oh, hey, I want you to build some pages, and I found all this wasted money in your paid account that will let me build them to help you win. Silos suck. Thank you, Heather. That presentation was awesome. Also, another reason why you're probably not going to like this presentation, there's nothing to write down. This is changing mentality. Because last year I gave you every step to do, and you still don't do it. So go watch the fucking video from last year. If you don't like the words that come out of my mouth, I apologize, but I speak how I feel and what's in my heart, so therefore I will continue to curse. You have a minute and a half to go, because I'm not going to censor myself when I'm this passionate about some shit. And if you can't get over that, then you're going to miss out on the larger point. So give me a 1. I don't care. I'm going to help you save money, because I'm taking the shit out of Google's mouth. $43,000 in inefficiency found in 2 hours allowed my client to afford to get half of the cost of GA360, which they so desperately needed. They didn't have the money. I said, give me their paid search account. Bloop, 2 hours later, here's $43,000 back. Can you now do that thing? Yes. And if you're going, well, how did Will do it? Last year. The videos are on YouTube. Buy the old CDs. You didn't do it. There it is. You know how to Google shit, right? Google it. Find it. I have poured hundreds of hours into teaching you how to do this yourself. All right. Here's the power of looking at big data. Happened to us a couple weeks ago. So I have a client who allowed me to disclose them. They are a company called Drexel. They hired me when Sear was 4 people. They're still a client today. It means so much that they've been with us on this whole journey back when no one else would pick us, but pizza shops and hair salons. How do you become? See, we took 55 million engrams. Google that, figure that out later. It's a lot of slides today. We took 55 million engrams of every search term for every client, broke all those words down into single, bi, tri, and quadgrams. And we started seeing little outliers like, how do I become? And because every column is every one of my clients, it scrolls, so I have more than just that few, you can see that I said, wow, well, why is there 28 how do I becomes for that one client? Who is that client? That's Drexel. So that helps me to cut through the bias that I bring as a marketer by looking at the data at scale. And we looked at our old ad, it's fine, but we went, right, like when you search in education and you're looking for a degree, you're not looking for a degree, you're looking to change your life. You're looking to become something. Nobody's like, I want to become a library, I don't want to become an MS in, library information sciences. I want to become a librarian. By looking at 50-something million engrams across every client, we found the outlier for become, and we had a 174% increase in click-through rate. You have to slice this data up. I mean, it was like, oh, client, outlier, become, change the ad, put become in it, boom, 173% increase in click-through rate. Okay, now, next step, guys and girls, is now we have to go through all their organic pages and say all the organic pages that are ranking with degree words, let's try become words, because we already have the proof that it works. The other thing that drives me crazy is I don't like individual smarts. Every client deserves that analysis, so it drives me crazy when we find something really smart for one client and I have no way to scale it for all the others. That's why I have to use big data, because it's unfair to find something that's that impactful for a client and go, I hope everybody else read the email that said, check this out. They're not. So what you do is now we're bringing in, we just did this morning, so one of my data engineers said, oh, I can bring in the title and description. Authority Labs gives me a title and description for every search term in the entire data warehouse. So then I said, well, let me search for every become keyword for every client and search all the titles and descriptions where we don't have the word become. This is going to be fixed for all of our clients in a matter of weeks. Not going through client and project after project after project, trying to be like, did you get this to your client? No, I was out on vacation, they're on vacation, whatever. I'm finding this at scale. It's important. The other thing I'm going to remind you of throughout this presentation is that companies act in their best interests. And we, my friends, are getting clowned by Google. You are being made a fool of daily. And it's sad. But I'm going to get them back because I'm going to show you what they've been doing. But before we get to that, it's my 7th freaking MozCon, I believe. And thank you. Stop that, because I'm about to give you some bad news. I've stood up on this stage and talked about the thousands of websites that I've worked on in my 20-year career. August this year marks 20 years every day of my life working on search. I've looked at millions of words. Yeah, and I come up here and I tell you all that stuff. I'm telling you today that experience means nothing. Most times I was wrong or lucky. Because I was taking anecdotal shit for one client and trying to be like, hey, look at this thing that I did. And you're all like, well, Will's been doing this for 20 years, and he's worked on thousands of sites. You know there's 1.9 billion websites on the internet? So now think about it. I looked at 1,000 in 20 years, and there's 1.9 billion, and you listen to me? Imagine if I built you a keyword strategy where I gave you 3 keywords. Here's your keyword strategy. You'd be like, moron, there's more than 3 keywords. And this guy was a big part of it, Marcus Tober, and here's why. I was sitting in a conference once, and he showed how ranking factor guides were just complete garbage. And at that time, I'm always asked to be in them. I get the freaking spam email from your outreach saying, well, will you be in my ranking factors guide? I say, okay, I'll do it. And then I was like, oh my God, I know nothing. Because I didn't know that images impact different things at the vertical level. I didn't know that, and neither did anybody else that you were asking what their ranking factors were. Not me, not Rand, none of us. Because we don't cut our data this way. So therefore, we were looking at things generically. We were giving anecdotal stuff for these 3 sites that I worked on at a 1.9 billion. You want to build your strategy off of that? You have to learn to find the outliers. So I'm in the audience like, this is embarrassing. And I'm like, oh man, I've been jumping in the best practices sucker hole. Hey, what do you say? Oh, well, Russ said, so I'm just going to do that. I hate this question. Don't ask me this for the next 2 days. Will, what do you think about click-through rates, page speed, voice search? Because all I'm going to say to you is, what do you think about pulling your own data so I can give you an answer in your vertical instead of some shit that I'm going to make up? Hey, Will, how hard is this keyword to rank for, and what's the value if I rank for it? Well, if I don't bring in rich snippets, don't you think that this might make that word a little bit harder to rank for, or a little bit lower value? If you're not bringing snippets into that equation, how do you know? Now, some people might say, oh, but there's tools out there that'll kind of take that into account. Okay, next slide. Because you know what really makes a keyword difficult? Losing trust. Losing trust. Here we go. You Google something. WikiHow shows up. How likely are you to click on it just because it's number 1? Where in your data set do you bring in the news to know that maybe somebody lost trust and that's why your project is performing better? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But also, it's when you're being trusted. You can get a lot more out of a brand that shows that they care about people in the same way that Casey was talking about it. You're just going to get more for the same rankings. So when someone says, hey, Will, in this position, what do you typically see as a click-through rate? I can go into my data, and I can look at my click-through rate curve by industry and give you all that. But if they're not a trusted brand, it's going to put a dampener on that. Even keyword suggest, in my opinion, makes things more difficult. You're getting married. You're looking for your bridesmaid dress. You go to type in David's bridal and the letter B, and you see bankruptcy. Oh, wait. I'm getting married. They're going bankrupt? Does that mean that my bridesmaids aren't going to get their dresses? If you have ever done a search and seen the word scam show up in the suggestion and changed your behavior, this affects click-through rates, doesn't it? Where does that exist? In your data set. So I just started questioning how much I really knew. You know, it's hard when you're on these stages and people are like, yay, Will's coming. And I'm like, I don't know shit, man. I've seen the vastness of what I don't know. And I'm trying to share with you a way to get there so you can learn as well. The other thing for me, God bless you, is I stay in hypothesis mode. And I will share with you something. A hypothesis that I had yesterday, I was able to answer in about, no, this was last week. I had a hypothesis last week. I was able to answer this in about 1.5 to 2 minutes. With e-commerce marketers, please pay attention. Actually, no, anybody. E-commerce, SaaS, this happens a decent amount too. You search for a word with the word with. All of those variants affect whether or not you're the right answer. So if you're going after the main word, I'm telling you the word with is crushing your value in PPC. It's crushing your yield. Because Google's going to let you show up for that word even though you don't actually offer all those derivatives of wedding dresses. So I looked at it for every client. Instantly. A minute later. Every client with the word with, I could look at what their CPAs were. You can see examples of certain words that I have over there. You can see that across my client base, I've spent $500,000 on words that include with. I'm looking at 80,000 unique queries, and I've summed them up by client. So once I found out that with was a problem, I overlaid industry and saw that e-com, it's a real problem. In e-com, if your business is one where you don't manage all the different with versions that people could put in, go ahead, pull down a search term report like I showed you how to do last year, type in the word with, and look at the CPA for your with keywords versus the core keyword that's probably under the CPA, so Google's going to have you still bidding. All right, so now I want to give you the reason why I believe that we have to move into this place of big data. I thought Heather Physiak, like, wait a second, like Heather's presentation, girl, that shit was good. Because what I've learned is that when you combine data from different teams, they start being forced to work together. They can't work in those silos anymore. Your customers don't see the difference between paid and organic. Why are our teams working like, I'm the paid team? I thought we were in this to solve problems for people, and people don't think that way. So the first problem is your data is too small. It's just too small, guys. I found 80,000 words that in my database that just included with. We got a lot of freaking data. We have a client. They were tracking 5,000 keywords, I believe, in stat. We went and pulled all their paid search terms, checked the rankings for all of them to do our organic and PPC integration. We ran rankings for 2.1 million search terms on desktop, then on mobile. When you do that, folks, it leads you to strategies that most of you would not look at. Most of you would look at this strategy and go, Will's off his rocker. Is Will really telling me that he's going to target keywords that have no search volume? Moron, I'm going to go jump in the best practices hole of what I was just shown 3 speakers ago, right? All right, go ahead and jump in the best practices hole. Keep sitting there like, Will, really? So let me get this right, Will. You're telling me that I should be targeting 0 search volume keywords? Yes. Let me show you the data. Here's a client. Monthly search volumes in that little slicer in the top left. 1,000 searches or more got them 331 conversions. Let's get ready for the math lesson. Would you rather have 331 conversions? Don't get smart with me like, well, what about the quality? Not today, y'all. Would you rather have 331 conversions or 745 conversions? Which number is bigger? The second one is just for search terms that the tools that you all use say have 0 search volume every month. Double the number of conversions by only looking at the keywords that your tools are telling you have 0 search volume. How can a word have 0 search volume but gotten me 745 freaking conversions? Oh, man, I love this slide. I can't wait for somebody to go, oh, we're not going to target that word. It's got 0 searches, Will. Okay. Just put the word in your title and all these zero search term words, and you will probably rank number 1 because they're really easy to get. Okay, let's keep going. So I have a client that's been with us for 11 years, and their business has not changed much. So let's say they did Blu-ray players, but that's all they did was Blu-ray players. And you can kind of imagine that over time, people just aren't looking for Blu-ray players as much. So you get it, serious decrease in the topic. You're smart people. Guess what's up 1,271% in spite of that massive decline? Number of unique search terms. Over 11 years, they went from 4,492 to 57,000. Most of us are tracking, I put 300 words in, 400 words in. I used to do the same thing. But imagine how much worse it is when you have a product suite like this. They do one thing. All they do is sell Blu-rays. Imagine all the searches that are done to eventually outfit your gear. And that, my friends, is why small data is dangerous. I'm going to sort by monthly search volume. Seriously? Like every time I even hear monthly search volume, I kind of giggle a little bit. Now, of course, I use it when I have to, when I don't have impression volume or conversion data out of paid, God bless you. But that's the first problem. The second problem is your data is too siloed. Like I said before, great marketers have daily hypotheses. I have a job at Sear, and my job is to be like, bring me your hypotheses. And I need to have my team be able to act on a hypothesis faster than anybody else. That's why we got to get our data right. So I had a hypothesis. I wanted to qualify SEO opportunities with paid data. Vendors are like, yeah, we can put all that in a big query. You look around at different vendors and they got all their logos telling you that all the data comes in one place and it's set up in minutes. And I looked at one company who said this, and I tried a bunch of them out. And the first, I paid $100,000 for one of these companies to help us do this. I did it for free, showed you last year on how to do it in Power BI after dropping 100G. I asked this question. So all my data is in BigQuery, right? My PPC data, my SEO data, yeah. I said, great, can I see which PPC words and SEO words together in one visual? They were like, yeah, we're gonna go find another sucker to sell another $100,000 to because you're asking really tough questions. I don't know about you, but who in here has felt my pain on hiring a vendor for hundreds of thousands of dollars? And you're like, wow, it never even worked the way you told me it would. It's painful, but it led me to doing it for myself for free, and they still haven't figured out how to do it yet. So here's a hypothesis that I have. So I want to build out, I'm going to walk you through how I kind of build out the data infrastructure quickly to let me hypothesis test. So I believe that Scandal impacts PPC, impacts everything, impacts click-through rates, impacts traffic, everything. So you take your PPC data daily, and you get news results daily. And if you're thinking, well, how do I get news results? Here it is, the MozBot stat. It's a freaking box. When you do your CSV exports, it will tell you what news, when the news is showing up. If you track the news every day, you can see when your brand name or your competitor's brand name is now in the news and spiking. So when your paid team's like, yo, we rebuilt the account, crushed it, I'm like, oh, well, there was a scandal the other day. My data tells me that you might be wrong. They're like, no! Because I don't know a paid search team on the planet who says, oh, no, I bring in news right next to all my paid data, so whenever the news is changing, I know if it might have been something like that that caused my numbers to go up or down. Maybe my client's like, your rebuild sucks. It's like, no, your company got caught for doing some shady stuff. Or maybe it's the other way. Maybe your paid search is performing so well, but because you compete with Wells Fargo, people are like, I don't trust them right now. It's still in the news cycle. So therefore, maybe your paid performed better because people don't trust your competitor anymore. You need that data. And it's got to be sitting next to all your other data or it's useless. I have another hypothesis around targeting Fortune 1000s. We have a client who goes, we target the Fortune 1000. So we go, all right, well then let's get the Fortune 1000. You go out, you Google it, you download it. We then said to the client, well, what kind of sectors do you want? Oh, I want healthcare, and I want materials. Those are the ones that we're really growing in. Click, click. We want ones that are growing in profit right now. Fine, slice. We get a whole new set of states to go target. We now connect it to their Google data by state, so we repull all their paid data by state. So now we start finding things like this. So now we can have a conversation with our paid search team that says maybe, just maybe, I'm not saying you have to, but maybe we could structure the account to be able to bid by state because we're budget constrained. So now if we know the states that are most likely to have the most Fortune 1000s where we typically convert, I don't want to run out of my budget in freaking Wyoming where there's nobody that matches the criteria of the way the business is trying to grow. People in Wyoming just clicking. And then you run out of budget and now you're not showing up in Maryland. It happened to me. We were doing GA360 ads to grow our GA360 practice. Agency people in New York were draining my account and not converting. The good part about me having my own money on the line, you're gonna see some fiery shit later because I'm mad that I had to waste money that Google got. I'm doing this with one client with Medicare data. They said, oh, Medicare changes. It's like you start opening your eyes to like, oh, well, if Medicare changes by state and those things affect how much of this you can do, then where is there a data set that gives me all the data on Medicare? Let me connect to your Salesforce. Let me connect to your inventory. The other issue I mentioned earlier, so you know how I caught that become bias example? This is just another example of how we bring bias in. I mean, you know, all this shit, you know, my experience, my ratings at MozCon and all that told me I might know something about keyword research. Data told me I was wrong. Deck plan. I want you to think, you're a content marketer, you do the search, you sort by search volume, the word deck plan shows up. You go, okay, deck plan. What content are you thinking is the right content for that query? I want you to think. Because if you're like me, I thought this. Not this. Shout out, James. One of our freaking guys goes to this thing every year. I'm just like, I'm not going to follow you on Instagram for a week. Enjoy yourself. He kicks fucking ass. Love him on my team. Looking at Google's results broke out the bias. I went, wait, why is all of a sudden is it bringing up Princess Cruises? And I have a hypothesis now that this is seasonal. People pick cruises at certain times of year, and I'm wondering if the SERPs actually change. So it's like all decking stuff, and then during cruise season, do I see cruise stuff creep up? The other thing is you have to start building out your content or your keywords in a way where you break those words into individual words and run analyses on them. The reason why is because the words MSC mean nothing to you. When you stem all the words, I found that MSC is a freaking cruise line. My bias didn't tell me. I didn't know anything about cruises because I don't do cruises. Therefore, my lack of knowing everything in the world led me to waste money for my client. But now I have a tool that keeps that from happening. But you got to break down each one of those individual search terms into n-grams so you can start to understand what's the meaning of these things. Why am I seeing MSC with deck plan? Because I know what decking is and I know what all those words are, but I don't know what MSC, oh my God, it's a cruise ship. And morons are clicking on those freaking ads even though they're looking for cruise ships and my client does decking. All right, I'm going to keep moving. The next thing is your data is slow. You got to be nimble, you got to be able to react. So on a certain day, I think it was 6/26, 6/24, there was a lot of clicks on the words around student loans. This is why you got to check the news every day, put it next to your paid data. Bernie Sanders starts talking about getting rid of all your student loans. People are like, oh, student loan bailout, spikes. But we got Wells Fargo and Discover matching to it, trying to sell you a student loan, not the intent, but you didn't know it, and you freaked out that day because you weren't going to hit your conversion goals and your CPA was through the roof. Oh my God, the client's going to be so pissed. It's like, well, like you got to shoot Bernie Sanders then. Like I can't prevent you from, like, I could negate bailout, but if I don't have a feedback loop that tells me within 24 hours that that word has changed, it's a problem. If anybody in this room is working on Elizabeth Warren's campaign, respect. You found out instantly the intent and you're bidding correctly. All right, I'm gonna talk about some devilish Google shit. So Google does about 116 billion in revenue from ads. And you know, they're like, oh, put in how much you're willing to pay to get a customer, how much you're willing to pay to get a click. And they're like, just log in from your hammock, and we'll just be like, all goals were hit. It's cool. All goals were hit. Go back to sleep. We got machine learning. But the devil, my friends, is always in the detail. Because Google says, like, you can't look at 100,000 words. They go, we got AI. We built cars that drive themselves. What did you do? You just trust us. We have a car that drives itself. You can't even walk to work. without like tripping over the freaking sidewalk. Trust us. We have bestowed this, oh, if you're at Google, you must be smart kind of thing on Google. And yeah, they got some smart people, but they don't always put them on all the things that could help us out as marketers. I've reviewed 30 PPC accounts. More since then. I looked at a couple in this past week. 15% of almost all paid that I find is wasted. And when I say wasted, I mean it's like, oh, people are looking for cruise ships, and you don't sell cruise ships, and Google's never going to tell you that. They're going to let you just, and you're taking selfies in front of their fucking signs. It's like you paid for all that with your dumbass clicks. I feel like somewhere like Sergey just looks at the cameras like, oh, look at these fucking dumbass marketers. They're taking pictures in front of the sign like, I'm at Google's campus. Google has a $17 billion business on fake clicks. Not fake. There are people who don't care that you're paying for it. Go click. Oh, it's a deck. I don't want to build a deck. I was looking for a cruise ship. Then why did you click on my ad that said, build a deck? $17.4 billion, to put in context, is roughly Starbucks' entire fucking revenue in 2017. Everything that every person at Starbucks wakes up to do across the whole globe is what Google has taken out of all your asses without you knowing it. Turkey. Different than this turkey. So why did they match my client to the word Turkish? You fucking know that that's the wrong answer. You know it, you greedy motherfuckers. That's wrong, because your entire organic side does not rank my client for Turkish words, because you know they sell turkey, and it pisses me off. You know why it pisses me off? Because I targeted the word GA360, trying to grow my fucking business. And they don't let you exact match anymore, so they're just gonna match you to other shit, like Georgia 360, and I paid money for that. I paid money for that. I could have done a lot of good for my team, my community, with that fucking money. Yeah, I'm fucking hot. Because it's our money. And we run around taking selfies at their freaking offices. So I said, fuck that. All my data's in BigQuery. Thanks, Google. I like some of your shit. And I pulled every exact match close variant for every client. Because I'm not letting this happen to my clients. We have a tool that runs every 24 hours on every stemmed word that comes into our MCC. We have found $10 million in savings so far this year. And we're expecting that. We're doing a rolling 3-year savings. And when you say, well, Will, how did you come up with the number 3? Is it to make the number look big? No. We calculated the number of days from the time that our tool first caught that that word was a piece of shit keyword and how long it took for you to negate it. It's 1,323.89 days. You can't find this shit because they're saying, let the machines learn on your dime. 92.79% of all the search terms in my data warehouse have never converted from my clients. I dig through that 92.79% every day like my life depends on it. See what happens? Our tool, in theory, this is a visual for a client, somebody I did a freebie for, and we caught the word related to classes back in, I had to blur all that out, sorry, November 2015. Our tool said, oh, in November 2015, that word was bad. It's still getting clicks today. Their agency has no freaking idea. None, because they don't have a tool that parses every freaking pieces of words and figures out where they're spending, where they're not spending. So we built a little tool. It's not great, but we try to take our learnings that we can do at scale and put them into this tool called Saving Ben. That's the only URL you should care about. And it may not work, and I don't want to hear about it if it doesn't, because Google's not doing shit to help you save a dime. I'm trying to do something, so give me feedback that makes it better, cool. Rewrite my code to help everybody in this room save some money, cool. But you're not going to do it. So you waste the money. I'm making my money on Google through my clients, not through their stock. Google A/B test stuff on us and pulls CRO on us all day long. We don't even realize it. And the sad part is the small businesses get fucked. That's the really sad part. At least the people in this room, we're professionals. We know what Google's up to. So is Google a... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm realizing you probably had to type in a lot of swears. I'm so sorry. That I am actually sorry about. Like, you didn't have to type it. Oh man, that's great. That's great. That's great. All right, I got more to show you though, so let me go. So when you click on add negative, now mind you, yes, I probably could have done a better job of not going after the word Google services, but seriously, Google, like, is Google a free service, yes or no? Like, I had to pay for that. Y'all know I'm not a good answer for that. But when you click on negate, Google exact matches the negative. But when you go to add a word, they just say, had to blur some of it out, what's your max cost per click? And we're not going to even tell you how we're matching you. Why? Because we all know it's probably freaking broad. Suck the money out, get a new sucker in the auction. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Google does stem words, Will. They stem individual words, and they show you this little thing here in the lower left. This is one query that I got, one query. Looks like a homework question to me, which I can also identify at scale using WebShrinker. Run WebShrinker on every domain that shows up in your data warehouse, and it will categorize the ones as homework sites. And you can increase the salience really high, and you'll be like, oh my God, here's where I'm spending money and giving it to Google for people looking for homework questions. Really big in banking and in healthcare. I'll continue. So look at that query. And Google says, oh, we're going to give you a bunch of stemmed words. Now, I'm not that smart, guys. I'm not. But if you look at that really closely, you're like, oh, so Google stems words, Will. They took one long-ass query that got one click in my entire campaign, and that's what they chose to show me. They broke that thing down into 8 individual words. Isn't that some gangster shit? And then there's like you know how if you're in AdWords, they have like the little second panel, and you can click on the next version of that? They repeated it again. But Google's so smart. So you're not smart enough to know that a term that only gets one click, that's like 20 words long, that I don't want to know each one of those words. Why don't you take the words that are spending a ton of money for me, getting a lot of clicks, and break all those down and show me the different stem words? They're like, we're not doing that. You might spend less money, clown. So let's talk about Google's machine learning. They're not going to use it to help you save money. To me, this is straight up willful freaking ignorance. They'll use close variant for misspellings. They won't use close variant to show you any negatives you've done that you could also add to your negative list. Same technology, we're not going to use it for you. So what happens is one of my friends worked at David's Bridal. I hit her up and I'm like, your agency's still targeting the word bankruptcy accidentally. We have a tool that would have caught that in 24 to 48 hours if you wanted us to use it for you, you know? And she's like, no, I'll just have them negate it. Okay. So they negated it. But then we also look at these other clues from Google out of organic where they show shit that actually matters. And we go, oh, well, they think that your bankruptcy is connected to David's Bridal News. Yeah, you're still bidding on that word. They're not going to use all that machine learning. It's funny, the machine learning that tells them that is not connected to the machine learning that makes you bid there. All the same company. Suckers. That's how they get us. And all these clicks are just 1 or 2 or 3 clicks a year. So they're so small, we never see them. I'm getting my money back for that 1 click on that bad word, aren't I? Because all you are going to be like, yep, going to go do that thing Will said to do last year, and we're all going to save ourselves a lot of money in our accounts and do the cool shit that you're learning from your presenters. So, David's Bridal Chapter 11. This is where bias comes into play. So you know, the team member, they don't know everything about bankruptcy, but they go, oh, I looked at bankruptcy, it's similar to Chapter 11, but then they're not pulling all these at scale, so they're not finding words like docket or Bloomberg or Chapter 13, which could be an exact match close variant to Chapter 11, so Google's going to automatically negate Chapter 13, so my paid ads don't show up for it. No, they're not. They're taking that click too. My e-com people, pay attention. You are paying for clicks that are disgusting. I typed in the word Rolex store. Think about what I probably want. Google nails it. Boom, good job, organic Google. I want a freaking map. Awesome. Why are you showing me this? Clickbait, that's why. Because when you see a watch for $323,000, you can't help but click on it even if you're not going to buy it. Window shopping gets expensive. Who pays for curiosity and paid clicks? You do. As I was doing this for a client, I'm so dumb I didn't even know this. Who here has a limit on the number of negatives you can put in an account? Where Google goes, oh, you can't put any more negatives in. You can't put any more in. So what if I'm showing up for stuff I don't want to show up for in e-com? You're screwed. You have to rebuild all your accounts. I didn't know that. I was showing this for an e-com client. They're like, you know, we ran out of negatives. I'm like, you can run out of negatives? That's some gangster shit. They're never going to limit you on the number of keywords you can add, but they'll limit you to the number of negatives because that's how you save money. And I didn't even know this. I'm not the smartest guy, right? I forgot. Like, my team was like, yo, this tool you're building is actually super helpful in e-com because we can't pick keywords. So who's got to trust Google? You. How do you feel about trusting Google to match your product feeds after what I just showed you? And do you have a mechanism to police them? They do a lot of good. They're organic search rules. I'm just asking them to use the same machine learning that makes their organic search find me everything I wanted on the paid side so my clients don't have to waste a bunch of money on stuff that they know they don't do. So I go to image search. Oh, I'm looking for my slide deck. I need images of a Rolex store. Nailed it. Great job, Google. Nailed it. Great job, Google. What? That's messed up, man. Because, you know, I'm just sitting there like, oh, I'll click on that $15,000 watch. Who would buy a $15,000 watch? Click. Embroidered baby blankets, you know, embroidered. They're stitched, I believe. So I actually clicked on all these. Sorry if you're at any of these companies. Thanks for being part of my experiment. You're paying for them anyway. At least I'm helping you to save the money. Look at it that way. 50% of them are not embroidered. You don't even know you're showing up for it, and you can't even target the word embroidered or stitched because you have to upload your feed, from what I understand. But on organic, no, you can't show up if your stuff isn't stitched. Google's not going to use that machine learning to help you out. So me and my ragtag team of freaking data engineers with my dumb ass had to build something to help. And everything I'm showing you, you don't have to use our tools. Like, I showed you how to do this last year. What's going to be really painful is if you do your own year slicer from last MozCon to this one, and you find all the waste and realize I gave you the fucking tools to do it last year, and you think of all the things you were told no to this year. No, we don't have the money for that landing page, sorry. No, we don't have the money for more consulting in your project, sorry. No, sorry, we don't have the money for it. And you're like, it was sitting there, I just didn't do the things that the guy told me to do last year. If you think people know where the ads are, put on the mask, clown. Because Google's messing around with stuff like this. Thank you, Dan Shore, for sharing this. That's gross. Sponsored. They're tricking people into clicking on your ads, and you're the one who's stuck holding the bag. So what does it look like when you stop guessing about your data and you join it together? Client says, hey, Will, what do you think about voice search? Well, let me look across my 55 million engrams and look at all the OK Googles across all my clients looking for outliers. Let me look for things like where can, oh, that's a different intent, then show, different intent, then how, different intent, by industry or client. So now I'm not giving generic, hey, and the voice search is growing and stuff. I'm like, no, in your vertical with your data, these are the kind of words that people use. This is the type of intentionality. I got to connect it to your paid data so I can tell you if those words actually have ever converted for you or not. Now, mind you, it's all misspelled OK Googles because Google won't give us that data. I asked John Mueller, and I was like, yo, what about the voice search? You guys keep talking about how big it is. How about you put that in Search Console? They go, we look at it as an input device like a keyboard. Really? Like a keyboard, dog? What are we going to do? This, so we can hold them accountable. How do I? This is how we found the how to become. I was just randomly searching through 55 million engrams, like how do. And I went, oh, become, outlier. But U, the letter U, versus Y-O-U, know, make. So now when you think of all the things that you just saw from Casey, it's like, oh, well, how to make. That might be really good for a kind of cool image thing on Instagram to show people how to make the thing. And I know the exact client who has an outlier for how to make. So I'm going to give them that strategy. What I'm not going to do is tell every client that, well, now you need to do that thing that Casey said. I can now take Casey's idea and figure out exactly what clients it's most applicable for so I don't waste my other clients' time and money. They trust me with their budgets. I take that personally. Therefore, I need to say, if I can get the data to help you not to waste your money and protect you, I need to do that. They deserve that. So when it comes to clients taking my money, I got one thing for freaking Google. Are Google taking my clients' money?
I don't think so. Homie, don't play that.
Homie, don't play that. Game over. Stop guessing, get your data, and let's take some money back from Google because they've been taking it from us for so long. Let's do this. I told you guys I would sit at my laptop and help every one of you get this money back, and you know how many of you responded to that tweet with saying, I got my data ready? 0. I will be out here forever until my fingers fall off to help you guys begin this process. So I'm not trying to sell you on shit. I'm not going to email you afterwards. I just am sick of Google taking my money and your money. So let's go do something about it. Thank you for having me again.